Welcome to Who Are You? Curious Stories of Family Lore. Today, I wanted to give a recap of everything, but talk about more of the specifics. And I was expecting to just do a quick recap, but this recap, I don't know how long it's going to take. I might be able to do like an overview of the mansion house beginnings, but even like the process of building it is an interesting story. Um, but last week, we kind of discussed John Humphrey Noyes, a little bit of his childhood schooling. So his mom was Polly. She was the aunt of Rutherford B. Hayes. His dad was John as well, and he was a businessman, if I recall, and he also was on the U.S. House of Representatives, which I certainly do recall.
Yep.
So
I remember
John,
Humphreys being really well off and, like still even being like that silver spoon fed kid, like he still wanted to make his own mark. He wanted to do something different.
yeah, yeah. And we talked about how he went to college, but something that I didn't touch on in his childhood, I didn't really mention anything about his mom, but what I ended up finding out when I was reading this book, so pretty much all of what I'm telling you is coming from that book. Um, Ellen Wayland Smith wrote about from Utopia to what is. I've literally been staring at this thing for the last week, and the title just gets me. I just From Free Love Utopia to the Well Set Table. It's just my brain wants to mix all those words up, but I can remember her
Fair
name.
enough.
Yeah. So, but it's a really good book. She is the great, great, great granddaughter of George and Mary Cragen. George and Mary Cragen were the two original people in Putney, Vermont that started. They moved in with with John Humphrey Noyes when he was in Vermont. The author of this book is the great 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 granddaughter of the original two. Yeah.
Okay, so the initial husband and wife group that they brought into their marriage, start
Yes.
swinging before swinging was a thing. Like she's
Right.
related to them.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And so I wanted to spend a little bit more time on that since the information that I'm learning this from is from their grandchild, basically. So I was like,
Now
oh my
before
gosh.
before you tell me this information, my mind is already going to the point where it's like, is she really the initial husband and wife group, or is she part of John Humphrey's line, unbeknownst to her? Because they were swinging and they didn't have kids at the time, so you know, that's where my mind is immediately going with the story before you even continue. Sorry, I just had to share
And
that.
and it's a very it's a good question because I you just don't know. And with his philosophy and structure of things, which we're going to find out, we're actually going to spend a lot of time today talking about the the Putney, Vermont situation because it was
Okay.
actually a lot more wild than I thought.
Okay.
So we just kind
Did
of
it kind
glazed
of
over.
did it build the foundation for what he tried to bring to Oneida? Was it kind of the building blocks of what he was kind of trial and error figuring out? Because
Yeah.
because I mean, going back to what I've just learned about cults and stuff and their mentalities and how the leader is, even though he invented that pull out method and put that in, I can also see him being
Mel,
that it
Mel,
starts with a C.
just I brain dumped it.
But you know what I'm talking about, because he decided that was their thing. I could see him being an arrogant enough doministic male to not do that, to fake out and purposely impregnate the other man's woman as a dominance thing. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. Spoilers for part three, because oh yeah, this is a three-parter. This shit
So,
gets crazy.
dude, you know me with like Discovery ID shows and stuff. Like I look so much more in depth.
Yeah, I really, really tried. I was like, this is gonna be two parts. I don't think people want to hear about this for three parts. But you, unless you want to sit down for 5 hours with us at once, you probably want this to be broken up. Maybe next week we can take a break from this, but I'm kind of like one of those people that's just like, if I'm listening to a podcast and you're doing multiple parts, do not do something in between.
It's
Do
like a
it.
cliffhanger.
Yes, don't do that. I don't like that. Because then what happens if I go find another podcast and then that podcast gets me hooked and I forget about you? And then I come back to you 6 months later and I'm like, oh my gosh, that has happened.
Ding, ding, ding. Yep, dude, I feel that 100%.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, just from experience, consumer or, listener experience as a listener of podcasts, we're just three parts. If it's four parts, I'm sorry, or maybe
Maybe then
that's
we might break
maybe
it up.
not.
It depends. It depends on
Yeah,
what
but
the fourth part is,
maybe four parts is what people might want, depending on
You
how
know?
interesting this is to them. I don't know.
We're
Um,
trying it out. Let us know what you think.
yeah, we're new. This is only our 14th episode,
And honestly,
which
dude, like we do this for fun. Like we do this to fucking educate people, but also just for fun. Like it's
yeah, I have literally I've been listening to this book, audiobook, to work, from work, and then I have the Kindle version of it so that I can just sit and doom scroll this book instead of, I still doom scroll everything. But like this has been so much. And I've just been taking little notes in my note app and I've just been like, this has been consuming me because I'm just like, I can't believe that I am from an area where this guy made so many roots, shaped the town that I
he
grew
built
up
the
in.
foundation for you, dude. Like little did you know that
Yeah.
like this is where like all your traditions and habits and things, like when you still walk that soil, that is soil that he walked back in the day for these reasons. And I'm sorry I keep like sidetracking. I'm so
No,
excited to
no,
fucking
this
go
is
into
good.
depth with this shit.
This is a podcast. This is literally what it's for. This is a fucking podcast. If people don't want us to
Okay.
converse, they probably shouldn't be listening. I'm kidding, 'cause you should listen, but you also should want us to converse. I
You know.
almost just like, I half snorted, and I almost feel like it was a subconscious psychological want to also snort because you're snorting. I don't know if you caught that, but it was like a mouth snort.
If we lived together, dude, you'd be snorting in like 2 months. Like it happens like subconsciously with people. It's fucking I love it.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I'm not as crazy as John Humphreys, but my snort, I start a cult, man. I could be, you know,
I believe that. You could be Sam Lion Carp. Whoa, Sam Lion. Wait, Sam Lion Carpenter. John Humphrey Noyes. I was doing Sam Lion Carpenter. All of that needs to be cut. All of it needs to be just cut out of this podcast.
the
Anyway,
ironic part is, as I hung out with my friend Humphreys over the weekend, so like seeing him, he brought like smoked turkey and stuff to Friendsgiving. So like as we're talking, I'm just imagining this like little fat friend of Chris's that they're like really fucking dope, about to have a baby, and I'm like, we're learning about this Humphreys. I'm like, are you related to this Humphreys? Like, I've never met another Humphreys. Like,
that's so funny. But what's going back to like related? You said related. That was reminding me of
yeah,
something. I Part of me is like, do I have family members who are tangled
yeah.
up in this? Because this was a community of 300 people, and Oneida in the 1800s wasn't that big, and it's not even that big now. So I'm just kind of like, you never know. I'm curious about like the names, like if I can
Oh
find
yeah.
a list of names, because there are some names that I've heard in here that I've read in the book. I say heard because I also am listening to it. I grew up with people with those last names. So
hmm
I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe.
Like
Maybe.
I
And
said,
so I have a,
my friend Humphreys is the only Humphreys I've ever met. So the fact that this dude's name is Humphreys, and just because Maryland and New York aren't necessarily super far from each other, like it's only like a fucking hop, skip, and jump. Like it makes me wonder.
he did like, he ran away from the law a lot. Like you never
Well,
know. He
and
was
that's the
in
thing is like
Massachusetts at one point, I think.
you guys, Oneida, like there's initial like family names, like names that are just, born and raised. They're the names of the freaking area. Just like
Yeah.
I have here in Southern Maryland, like, there are certain last names that, they just, that's the initial last name, like, they're county folk. Humphreys isn't one of them.
Oh, that's his last name?
Yeah, that's his last name. His
That
first
was
name is John. His first name is John Humphreys. Humphreys.
oh. Well, John Humphrey is just one Humphrey,
Okay.
but that's still really weird.
And yeah, so like the whole time we were talking about this, like I'm just matching my friend John because I don't know his middle name or anything. And sorry,
Yeah,
John,
that is
for
really
throwing your name
weird
out
though.
there, but like
I thought his first name was Humphrey.
no, his last name is Humphrey. But we call him Humphrey, so like he doesn't go by John. It's Humphrey. So like when we talk about him, that's his like that's his innuendo. Or J Hump is another one, but like his first name is Jonathan, and then I don't know his middle name. His last name's Humphrey.
Yeah, that is uncanny. Yeah, that's really uncanny. Um hmm.
Sorry to get us
And
sidetracked
if
again, but
people
yeah, but
but
like it's
like
weird.
that's not sidetrack. That's contributing. That's like connected to this because also at the end of the when the Oneida community disbanded, and a lot of the reason it disbanded was because of some of the structure of the mansion house
Okay,
and the things that went on in there, but also like just somewhat sad things taking place, like truthfully, and terrible. Like there are some things in there that I'm just like, no wonder they did a burning, but we'll get into that. And
okay,
I wanted to talk about like this early stuff because it will build, it builds. You see a lot of common themes, and you make connections later that you're like, that's not for God. That's because you want to bone your sister. And that's maybe true.
I mean, back in those days,
And I'll talk about it. It's not confirmed. I just want to just disclaimer. It's not confirmed
Okay,
anywhere.
okay,
Um but so where were we? Another thing about John's like younger days, just some things that are important to understand maybe some of the decisions he made. His dad was an alcoholic, and then his mom was super religious, and she was really domineering. And
okay.
so he kind of resented religion for a little while as a teenager. And so I think it was his way of coping, but then something happened where he just decided, you know what, I'm gonna actually pursue this. Like he just got sick of trying it out, I guess. Um,
Well, like, isn't that when he like saw the preacher or the guy that was walking around the town and like shouting
yes,
the stuff out? Like he
that's
possibly got inspired. But yep.
yes. So that would make perfect sense. Like he, wasn't taking, hear me out. A woman's word wasn't enough for him to follow
Mhm.
it. But as soon as he
Mhm.
saw this overbearing man, who was probably way more overbearing than his mom, but women can be really overbearing too. So who knows? But that
Yeah.
masculine energy, he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna believe that, and I'm gonna go back to God now." And you'll see
Well, I mean,
later on.
also for like most of us, like I know for myself personally, like living with my parent and growing up, we all get to that age where we think we know everything. So like we have a lot of resentment built up, especially for which one is stricter. For me, I only
Yeah,
had my dad raising me at the time, so like of course, like I'm gonna rebel against my stricter parent. But then like moving out and becoming an adult and like experiencing life on your own, like you kind of earn that more respect, and it kind of flips like your mind and your view. So that might have
yeah,
happened with him as he got to that whatever age point that was to finally get away from his family and try to start one of his own and create things, and then realize like, oh shit, like I was rebelling against my mom all this time, but I actually like really do believe this shit, or like have my own rendition.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much kind of what happened with him, but in an extreme way. Also, something else about him is he was always kind of not good with the ladies. Like he would always he didn't know what to say. He was awkward around them. He faced a lot of rejection. He was kind of just not socially able to be a he didn't have a dominant presence. He didn't really uh he just
He
kind of
was
was
used to a dominant female as a mom, so like he didn't have that dad to raise him to show him like that game and how to actually like pursue. He was used to a woman telling him what to do, how to do it.
potentially, yeah, and his dad was an alcoholic, kind of checked out maybe a little bit. Um,
Exactly.
uh, when he was in school in Yale, I think, I'm not sure when exactly, but girl, not sure of her age, Abigail Merwin, had heard about him through her church, the Free Church, and so she wanted to meet with him and interview him and ask him about his beliefs. And this was during the time, because I'm kind of jumping all over the place right now with the timeline. I'm just filling in information that's going to be relevant. It's relevant to the building of everything, um,
Okay.
and to some of his resentment. So he rejection made him really angry when he would get rejected by a woman. He'd get angry, and there's proof of this because he had a diary. He did keep a diary, so he would kind of write some of his feelings down. um, and he this Abigail Merwin became his original follower. She would follow him around campus and kind of like preach along with him, and why his belief system, or basically why his teachings were good. And it was kind of this perfectionist teaching, this idea of animal magnetism kind of inspired him. So now, just imagine you have John Humphrey Noyes in college. He has this person, this attractive woman, following him around. He's never really had success with women. He he's finally has control, and he's feeling,
hmm
oh, if I say the right things, I can get women to pay attention to me.
hmm
So he's learning this because he's not stupid. He's just
No,
not good with the ladies. Um,
it's also
so
kind of
we
like that weird like hive mentality though, like because people like with our brains and the way they work, like they always say we have leaders and we have followers. Well, if you're another male who also is in the same position, don't necessarily have the game with ladies, and you see this one dude doing this thing and like preaching this stuff, and this very attractive woman's with him, like yeah, that's gonna coerce you to be like, oh well, if this is how it happens, like if it'll be my way in, we'll have a same common place, and like same with women, it's like oh, this really attractive woman is following it. It's that weird thing in the brain that kind of separates certain people. And like I said, that's like the leader follower mentality. It's like when you see something happening, it's like that's why cults kind of I feel like get so popular is because you have those people that see the common interest, or those that like don't necessarily do well on their own and stuff, and like see something that they can believe in because genuinely I know they believe it, but like they're just like, oh, I can finally have a family, I can have a unit, I can have something like that understands me.
Yep, it's that
So like
that
the
hope
fact that
of
he got that
safety and
one,
security. Hmm.
exactly, and the fact
Yeah,
that he got one, it was like, okay, I can get more, and the fact you got one, it'll just slowly build over time. Sorry,
yeah.
yeah, just analyzing, like
No,
it's wild.
it's true. It's true. And some of the I kind of want to guide a little bit and paint a picture of what he was teaching, because it's a little bit unclear to me exactly what his teachings were. Obviously perfectionism, and this idea that like he believed that Christ already came at 70
hmm
AD. His second coming had already happened, so we can create heaven on earth. And so that's kind of what he's preaching, this idea that heaven can be made and you can be made holy. Well, how can you be made holy? That's where it gets a little weird. And that's where having an attractive female following you around is going to build your following. Um, so animal magnetism. Have you heard of her?
it makes me think of furries. It makes me think of like the CSI episode where like somebody gets hit by a car and they're in a wolf costume, like animal
Um,
magnetism.
wait, somebody gets hit by a car and then what did you say?
So they're in like a wolf costume and a furry costume that's a wolf, and
Oh,
they get hit by a
I'm
car, and
following.
that's the murder investigation, and that's how it kind of introduced me to
Animal
furries
mag.
and what they were. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's
Right.
where my mind went with it immediately. So shout out CSI for that shit because that was a great
Yeah,
episode.
incorrect. Let me shuffle. Slipping down. There we go. I could put this down more, I guess. There we go. Um, so animal magnetism. It is an 18th century theory, so 1700s, um, that basically an invisible force flows through all living things, and it has the
Hmm.
ability, you can harness it and use it to heal and create trances, like put people in trances, considered like the
Hmm.
earliest form of hypnotism. Uh, and Luigi Galvani in 1780 made a frog's leg. Okay, how do I say this? I want to tie all this together. Luigi Galvani in 1780 made a frog's leg convulse, like a dead frog. He attached a positive and negative lead using like this battery setup, and he made it hop. He made the muscles move. He animated it
Yeah.
with an electric force. So that is kind of Noyes heard that, and this idea that this force flows through us and can be healing. He kind of took that to also mean like the force that flows through us is sex. Like that's the force. Like animal magnetism. He took he took this invisible force that can heal and trance to be like the act of having sex and having an orgasm, being the energy
Okay.
transference of healing and everything, is what I understood from this. This was kind of difficult for me to like wrap my head around. Um so sexual energy. So the invisible force he
Okay.
believes is sexual energy. So the more sex you had, the more holy you became.
Well, see, so my brain can kind of understand that,
You're like,
because
whoa. Like, sorry, go
like
ahead.
I can kind of get it. Like I don't necessarily understand the naming of animal magnetism other than the fact that like we are in our most primal state when we are our most vulnerable. So like we are naked, we are fucking doing something that is vulnerable. That like back in the wild, if you guys were doing that, fucking people could come up on you and fucking kill your ass. Like so, we
Right.
are in our most primal state at that. So I can kind of get the animal part of it. The magnetism part, I feel like just kind of justifies his attraction of other women to justify, not being with one. So that's kind of where I get the naming of that. But I kind of also understand too, because like if you think about it, and this might be getting a little too
Well,
much
he didn't
information,
name
but when
animal
you
magnetism. Sorry, he
okay,
didn't name animal magnetism. This was a 18th century theory. So in the 1700s. And this was, I think it was Luigi Galvani that coined the name animal magnetism, but I'm not totally sure. But another scientist, somebody Volta, his last name was Volta, was trying to discredit
okay,
animal magnetism, saying like, oh, this invisible force isn't healing. It's science. It's like positive and negative charges. So there was like this battle going on between the
okay.
theories, but Noyes reinterpreted the science behind it as a theological sexual energy. So it was kind of like science meets theology. So you can be healed through it. But sorry, what were
Well,
you saying though?
no, 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 you're good. Either way, if whoever created it or how he interpreted it, I feel like that's kind of probably how he interpreted the meaning. But like I can understand too, because like like whether it's your sexual partner or your best friend, like there are certain people that you're just magnetically drawn to. So like I feel like it's your primal instinct to be magnetically drawn to these people, like me and you, for example, or like the random people that just pop in your life that you're like, oh my god, where have you been all my life? Like you're gonna be in here forever. Like it's just certain
Yeah.
people that are certain souls you met in the past life. So I kind of like get both interpretations of it,
Mm-hmm.
but I also feel like he took it
Yeah.
as that route due to the fact that like if you think about it, when you're having the best sex of your life, like the one that makes you feel like you're astral projecting, like it's like, oh my god, like how the fuck is this actually happening? Like that is in a way I feel like
Yeah.
unlocking all your shit. So you're at your fucking like highest state. Like, imagine if we were the avatar, if we fucking were earth, water, air, firebender, like that is us unlocking the avatar state,
Right.
Like to put it in layman's
Yeah.
like the best layman's terms I can. And so I feel like when he said you're your highest being when that happens is because both people are in that state and you're connecting as one. So like not only are you two power forces, but then you're uniting. So like in a weird, you know, marijuana brain that I have right now, like that's kind of where I can see like
Mm-hmm.
his leading force into that can convince people that, hey, like it's not just I want to sleep with your wife, but like we will be our most in tune with God if we do so because this is our God state, basically.
Right. And that is kind of where he was. And if it was just like encouraging people to like have sex with each other in the name of God, like married people. Like I guess even a group of people, whatever, that's fine, you know? That's what he's kind of preaching in a way here.
Hmm.
Um Noyes wanted to, and I quote, spark eternal life into his followers, aka he wanted to have sex with all of them.
You know, just like he wants
Yeah,
to come inside all his followers. Got it.
yeah. He said, and I quote, the healing power of Jesus Christ is a liquid that passes through me, like energy passes from the machine that generates it.
He used that wording. Liquid that passes through me. Wonder what that could be, guys.
I'm gonna put I'm gonna put his picture right here, and this man said that.
He said that, yet he's preaching fucking the pull-out method. Told you, I called that shit.
I keep wanting to say male consummation, and that is not it. Um, it's not male contraception. Continence.
I knew it was a C word. Or maybe a K, I'm not sure.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. So, well, so he was yeah preaching male continence. That was later, really, at the Oneida community. Like once it was like a ton of people, he was like, "Holy shit, we can't have all these
Okay,
kids, so we have to like do something." But maybe
that
even
makes more
early
sense.
on. But it doesn't necessarily say it that early on. That was something that was mentioned later because I'm doing a deep dive. Before I did a skim, I thought I was doing a deep
Yeah,
dive. But this is why it's important to read books. This is why it's important to go beyond just like looking online because whoa, it's a very different thing to be like, it's just different. I just learned a lot more. That's why we had to
yeah.
like go back because it makes a lot more sense. Um
Okay, bet.
Oh my gosh. He says you wanted to be plugged into Christ because, energy is the liquid, or sorry, Jesus Christ is the liquid that passes through him, like the energy that generates a machine. So that machine needs to be plugged into Christ. In order to be plugged into Christ, you have to be plugged into the machine. The machine is him. So in order for you to be plugged into Christ, you have to fuck this guy. I'm sorry, let me say that
Does that
better.
mean he did the
In
dudes
order
too?
to be,
I'm sorry. You said plugged into Christ. You know, you got those
it
guys with the
doesn't.
followers too. There's like, you know,
Well, that makes it. Oh, that's a great question because how if so only women get to be plugged into Christ through you. So this to me this is saying everybody needs to plug into Christ. All it says
exactly. That's what I
all of
read.
his followers. It does not say the female followers. It says all of his flowers need to be plugged
Which
into
is another
Christ to
form
flower
of
in the holy
male
name.
dominance, though. Like, it's still a form of male dominance. Like, at the end of the day, if I inserted myself into you, that, depending, and especially during that time frame, because that was as frowned upon as the swingers were, like, you know, I have something over you. So, like, you're gonna bow down to me. And, you know, you had to do that for Christ. Like, it's a weird, like, coward, like, huh. Sorry, not trying to offend anybody that's still a part
Yeah,
of this fucking
and
following, but you know, questions.
no, that doesn't exist anymore. The children
Okay,
of
okay,
the community after it disbanded did everything they could to bury it, I think, a lot of it.
cool.
Not bury it, but like there was a great burning that got rid of a lot of details. But there are a lot of word
Either
of
way,
mouth things that survived in this book.
not trying to offend anybody that is a family member or has some ties to it. Just honestly, genuine questions that are popping in my head as I'm listening to this. Like, there's no judgment. I'm just honestly, genuinely curious.
And yeah, and you should ask
Just wanted to
questions
put
because
that
this was a
disclaimer out
wild
there.
thing that happened. Yeah, and I don't think you're being disrespectful at all. These are really good questions. Like if the liquid inside you is the connection to Christ and that liquid has to do with sexual energy, what do you think that liquid is? What do you think this man was saying you needed to have inside you to be close to Christ? So if you're not getting it inside you through sex, how are you getting it inside you? If you're not having sex with your male followers, how are they getting the liquid of Christ that comes out of you inside of them? Are they drinking it? Are they
Mhm.
sharing a partner that has just recently received the liquid of Christ. Like, this raises so many
Exactly.
questions that potentially were in the documents that got burned at the Great Burning, which happens generations after the community disbanded, which,
And the
is
only
basically
reason
all of
why I
that, but
question it, and the only reason why I question it is because I look at other cults and religions and like polygamous groups and stuff that I've studied and like, looked into. And like when they come with their official document of like the rules, the religion, and the following and stuff, they're very specific. So like if they're like, oh, once you turn 13 and you're a female, you have to get married, stuff like that. So the fact that in his
oh my
document he did
gosh, the
not
fact that you
specify,
just
he
said
just said my
13.
following. But that's my point, though. They're very specific with their following and what they're like. Their documents and what they're like. So like the fact that he wasn't as, and it was very much open ended. That's why my head is going the direction that it is.
Well, I'm sure there was a lot of documents because it's actually in Vermont. You mentioned documents. I believe that
Yeah,
he actually, because we are going to talk more about this. They had, and I want to, there's a couple other things before, but they did have a statement of principles, the five couples in Vermont that ended up becoming like joining together, that basically said they were all married
yeah.
and share everything in the name of God, but that John was the father and overseer whom the Holy Ghost has set free the family thus constituted, meaning he was the ruler of the house. But the more sex you had, the more power you had, and the farther away you were from death, aka sex, the more sex you had is how you get to eternal life. Like, you could potentially live forever if you keep having sex with John. Um,
I mean, side
he
note, your
called
genetics go on
sex.
forever, so he's right. Like, the more sex you have, the
Oh,
more
yeah.
partners, the more fucking you procreate, the more your life. I mean, even though that's not how he meant it, like in the
Well,
long run, he's not
if you're a
wrong.
guy,
True.
if you're a
True
guy,
shit.
if you're
True
a,
shit.
there's a pretty limited cat for women,
There's a
but
limit,
men, they
yeah.
can
We got a
you can have
limit.
thousands. Yeah.
Exactly.
Um,
And as a
but yeah,
man's
I
perspective,
see
I
what
could
you're
see where
saying.
that's like that.
Yeah. He called the sex organs the medium of the noblest worship of God. The medium of the noblest worship of God.
I mean,
The
I will say that is the most
the
proper description of our lady parts that I've ever heard.
fair, absolutely.
I
They
will give
are
him credit
the
there.
noblest. Wait, what was it? The noblest, the medium of the noblest worship of God. That's what our
Okay.
reproductive organs are. Okay?
I need a
Right.
tiara
Um,
and some grapes.
yeah, same. I would actually love a tiara, but I'd like for it to have like little skulls on it with like sparkly skulls, but like black
Oh, yeah.
sparkles and like dark purple. Like the skulls like to have like dark purple shading. Anyway,
Oh, fuck yeah.
yeah. No black, just all like really dark purple, but black sparkles. Anyway, maybe some black feathers. I don't know. Feeling black feathers with that sounds really good. Um, where were we? Okay,
The noblest
so
of
in
reproductive.
in Vermont. Yeah. This is all happening like in Vermont. When I keep mentioning Vermont, this is in Putney, Vermont, by the way. And in Vermont, he claimed on top of like that you need to be plugged into him to be, plugged into God. He also claimed he could heal people. Like he was a healer. And apparently there were a couple successful instances where he did heal people in the town of Putney, and so people were like, "Oh shit. Maybe this guy's got some truth to him." But then one woman named Mary Knight was in the late stages of consumption, and finally, like after I think it was like as a last ditch effort, her family was like, "Hey, John, can you come heal her? She's dying." He was like, "Yeah, I definitely can because I am of God." I don't know if healing her meant like having sex with her. I don't know. I'm
Like,
not sure
it
how he
depends
healed
probably how
people. It
far
didn't
off she
say.
was.
Well, yeah. Like I don't know what he did to heal people, but it's his entire theology revolved around sex. So I don't know how you would suddenly, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know if the author of this book knows either. Um maybe there's more to it, and I can find out later. But there's another, you know, another question to add to the thought bucket.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So
Because I didn't even
she
think
ended
about
up
that.
dying. What was that?
I said I didn't
You
even
didn't
think
think
about
about
that
what?
question. So that's a great question. Whether because his whole ideology like revolved around sex and stuff, like thinking about like when he had patients and he had to heal them, like how he exactly did that. Like that
Yeah.
didn't even like pop in my head as an option. But she died?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, she ended up dying. So she was like, it did say like he took her into his care. So it seems like there was like he took her somewhere and there was some privacy involved, which is why I'm like, well, what were you doing? And she died in his care.
Okay.
So if he did
Did
try
it say what
to,
she died from?
well, assumably consumption, but it just says that she died while in his care. So presumably of
Interesting.
consumption, but if he was in there trying to pump her full of the holy liquid of Christ, and she's in the late stages of
Yeah.
consumption, she I'm imagining her dying while that's happening. But I don't know. I
I mean,
wasn't
that's
there,
fair. Yeah,
thank
that's
God.
fair.
Uh, but this is where my brain's going. I'm like, is this like what am I misunderstanding like the
Can
assumptions here?
you
Like I'm not trying to be morbid. I'm just trying to
can
understand the history of my hometown. Well, this is in Vermont, but the history
can
of this guy.
you remind me what consumption is?
I
The
think
late stages of
consumption
consumption.
is like just dying. Yeah. I guess that I always used to die from it on the Oregon Trail, but I never knew what that meant. I think like so
I used to
um
play that game at work.
yes.
When we were bored and it was a slow day.
Tuberculosis. It's
Okay, okay,
tuberculosis.
that makes more sense now. I knew what it was, but I couldn't remember, and I couldn't like consumption to me like sounds like it could be so many different things. So that makes more sense. So it's TB. Okay.
I always thought consumption was dying in a covered wagon because every time I died of consumption on the Oregon Trail, you'd see the little logo of the wagon, if I'm remembering correctly. So I'm like, oh man. So
Yeah.
I always thought maybe like it had something to do with being consumed by the buggy. I don't know. I was a kid.
See,
I don't
I
know now.
always thought it meant of like running out of supplies and only having like your alcohol to drink. So like you're consuming. So like you consume too much, so like you die of like alcohol poisoning. So for me, that's what like what consumption was. It's like you're
Well, damn,
consuming too
that's
much of like a substance.
yeah. So this death kind of like made the community of Putney be like, what the fuck? And Reverend Hubbard Eastman, which Hubbard was my grandma's maiden last name. My grandma Bevy, her last name was Beverly
Uh-huh.
Hubbard. So just an interesting, weird
Okay.
little coincidence. um, Reverend Hubbard Eastman was like, "Whoa, I don't think so, man. Like, I don't think you're who you say you are." Um, and he started telling people this, like being like, "Don't trust this guy," and that made Noyes pissed. He was like, "No." So he went and he did an interview with Spiritual Magazine, defending himself and saying like, "Oh, I can heal," and basically preaching his theology, everything we've talked about. And then Hubbard later went and wrote, I don't know if it was an article or a book or what it was that he wrote, but he published a piece of writing of sorts that was called Noyism Unveiled, where he just shit all over Noyes. He was just like, this guy's a fraud, et cetera, et cetera. And that, yeah, like this is a reverend in Putney that was just not having any of this. He was like, "You cannot do any of this," and I refuse to believe it. And people need to know that you're BS. Um, he called Noyes the great magician of Putney, which maybe is what I should title
Okay.
this episode.
I'd be down
Maybe.
for that.
Um, this is good. This is where it gets a little crazy. Gets crazy.
All right, let's
So
go.
once word broke of the death of Mary, he became extremely disliked around town. People were like, fuck you. And then adding to Reverend Hubbard Eastman, just shit talking him, people were just not, they just did not want him around. But then to add, some salt to the wound, they found out about all of the couples living together and their signed document and them all like doing it all the time with each other,
Mhm. Mhm.
they were pissed. They were like, "This is not who we are here. We don't want you to do that." Um, and Noyes confided in one of the townspeople that he thought was like a friend,
Mhm.
and that person was like, I thought I was your friend, but that shit's weird. So I'm gonna go to like basically tell the judge of the town so that they can send police officers to arrest you." And that's exactly what happened. And on October 26th of
That's my
1847,
birthday.
your birthday,
Fuck. What the fuck? What the
he was arrested. Yeah, he was arrested for adultery.
what the fudge sickle, bro?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but this is the crazy part. So he gets arrested and he basically gets like a
It's
boner for getting
1847,
arrested. Yeah, 1847.
47. 1997, dude. Like, or 1997.
Oh yeah. Ooh, the end.
Or 26, 1990. Oh, sorry. Still stuck on that for a second. But anyway, he got a boner for being arrested.
That is so weird. Yeah, there's a slight lag because I'm upstairs. So there might be a little overlap in the audio. We're not interrupting each other, everybody. But I noticed that, like, once I upload it, it kind of levels itself out. But the fact that you just jumped right into the fact that he had a boner, I forget what he even had a boner about now. What was it?
About being arrested.
Oh, being arrested. Yeah, he was like, "Oh
But it's
my
spiffy.
God, I'm being arrested for following in the name of God." And that's what like all saints do. And so I'm a saint because like we're all saints. And so he gets arrested and he only spends either 4 days, I think it was 4 days or 4 hours in jail. One of those. Uh, and then gets released on bail because his community members, or not community members, the Putney community members bailed him out. He was like super euphoric when he got out, like bouncing, chest up, puffed up high, just like thinking, "Oh, this is the start of me becoming a saint," kind of deal.
Yeah.
And Jesus faced adversaries and adversity, and you have to have that be something that happens. So he turned it into like, look, all these people from the Bible were in prison, like I'm just like them. But also going back to things in the Bible, another reason. Okay, so I have to talk about this some of the people in this Vermont household. I'm not super clear on exactly if I'm like the relationships to all these people, but Mary and George Cragen, the grandparents 4 times removed of the author of this book, um, they were the in this Putney community first, then they invited like a few more other couples. So there was a total of 5 couples. But what's kind of a little uncomfortable is that one of those couples was Noyes's sister and her husband.
Okay.
John Humphrey Noyes's sister, yep, and her husband, and they were all married, all of them. And
I'm not taking a lethal that.
John believes that he possesses, or believed that he possessed the liquid of Christ, Christ liquid, that needs to be put into all of his followers. Communally married to his sister. And he mentioned how
He was
Abraham
committing incest at the same
was
time.
told by, but he was saying how Abraham was instructed by God to marry his half sister to produce the perfect breed, the perfect race. Eugenics. He was a huge, like Noyes was a huge supporter of eugenics. Do you see why we need a third part? We are
Hmm.
50 minutes into this, and we are not even out of Vermont yet. Like, what? We are just about to be kicked out of Vermont. But this dude practiced eugenics and was communally married to his sister Harriet. He had a wife named Harriet as well, but his sister was living here with her husband. So, you know. And also something else, the way that this household started was because George Cragen wrote a letter to Harriet Noyes' wife, confessing his love to her in the name of Christ. And from what I understand, Noyes was like, if you're gonna fuck my wife, like we have to be communally married. And this is like where that idea sparked because again, this guy has a problem with rejection. So if his wife was to leave him for another man, that would hurt his ego. So this is his way of controlling it and not losing her, while also in the name of God and maintaining power.
And on top of that, they had problem conceiving kids too. So like, he didn't want to lose his wife on that aspect. So if that means, okay, we've tried for so many times, like we haven't been able to keep a kid. If that means like you need to have a significant other than me, like how can I spin this in my favor? Where like it makes you feel more dependent on me and it's
Right.
like me doing it, not your choice, like it's that also that male dominancy, but it's that insecurity aspect too. It's like, I can't help you conceive a baby. So what can I do to make you happy and keep
Yeah.
you around?
Yep. Because they did have one successful baby. Her name was Shirley. So they had a daughter
Mm-hmm.
together, Harriet and Noyes. Shirley was her name. So she was the one out of the six that survived. But yeah, exactly.
But exactly, they went through
Um,
so many others, like where
so Oh my God, there's so many fucked up things like that we're about to talk about. And it's not even that it's so fucked up to me. I don't know if other people are gonna think it's fucked up, but when I read this, my blood just started boiling for both of the rest of this, next time the rest of this episode. So this happened October 26th, and by the mid-November, because he was gonna stay. He's like, I'm gonna stay, we're gonna make this work, fuck them. But by mid-November, it wasn't the law. He was indicted, but it wasn't that drove him away. It was actually he went into town on business for some reason that's not important, and somebody told him, like warned him, like, hey, the villagers of Putney are going to use lynch law on you because the courts were too kind.
holy shit,
Yeah.
dude.
So yeah, they were getting ready to drive them out of Vermont in whatever means necessary. Maybe not even drive them out, maybe murder them. And so this stupid motherfucker was like, oh, thanks for the heads up. Never even went back to Putney and just fled to Oneida to the people who he knew who had land, leaving his wife to face the lynch mob herself.
He left all his wives.
Yeah, all of them, the whole community. But then they
Holy,
followed him. Yeah, after they dealt
no
with that,
fucking
they
way.
followed him. Yeah, yeah, a bunch of people. A bunch of people followed him from Putney to Oneida. Yep. Harriet survived obviously, but what's cool about Harriet is once the community disbanded, because I think she stayed with him until the disbanding of the community later on. I could be wrong, but she ended up marrying, leaving the idea of perfectionism, communal marriage or whatever. Um, and she married somebody else and died happily, like in 1905. She was okay, but what the fuck? What the fuck? Oh, Noyes and the Cragans. So Mary and George and Noyes and Harriet arrived later after she got done facing the mob because I guess Mary and George were were out with him and they weren't back there, so
Mhm.
they went with him too, is what it seems like. I could be misunderstanding that. But they arrived in Oneida on March 1st, 1848. So they were driven out in November, and I guess it took them until March to get to Oneida for some reason. I'm not sure. Um, but in
I mean, back
1848.
in the day, riding horseback and shit, or like on wagons and stuff, like.
Yeah, that's true. Um, this is another part that really pisses me off. This makes me so mad. They settled in land. Okay, so these are my words. This next paragraph is I wrote this word for word. This is me. So there's a lot of opinions in here. I'm just going to state that. They settled in lands stolen by the Oneida Indians and sold to white settlers. This book did not say the land was stolen, but it was stolen, if you know what I mean. Um, they even made their homes out of the longhouses of the Oneida Indian tribe that were left there because that was literally their homes. Their homes. They lived there for generations. generations. That land was theirs, and these white fucks came in, ripped them from their homes, threw them on reservations, and then gave it to this stupid piece of shit that just left his wife to face a lynch mob after wanting to fuck his sister, so he made an entire religion around it? Like, are you on crack? How is this? How are we not taught about this? No wonder the Oneida Indians were like, hey, Oneida High School, you can't be called the Oneida Indians. Yeah, no shit. We probably should have never done that. Sorry, that's a little bit of local history for me.
We were the fucking Braves. We were the Indian Braves. So
Yeah. So, I was real mad about that. But Harriet, like, the fact that they were, like, just living in the longhouses, too. And Harriet's writing in her diary about how magical. She was like romanticizing it. She was like, there's something just so magical about setting up home in these houses from these natives. It's like they didn't want you to do that. They didn't that's not their choice. Like it just bothers me so much. And growing up in Oneida and knowing a lot of Oneida, natives, um, always kind of feeling just guilty for looking the way that I do. Honestly, being like, I wonder how much I don't know how much I contributed. It's just wearing, like, I am blonde, blue eyes, pale as crap. And it's really, really hard to be like, I respect you. I want to be a part, like, I want to honor the Oneida Nation and everything that they've gone through, but I don't even know how. So I guess maybe doing this to just be like, to bringing awareness to what happened to them. Um, and the fact that it's happened to all the native tribes. I saw this map that showed like like the United States area before colonization and the amount of native tribes that were here and the vastness in which they spread out to like now how many are left and
yeah,
how difficult it is for them to survive. It's really difficult learning about it to know that oh my hometown was the entire thing was native land. And I remember we talked about Oneida or Willard Pryor Elementary School, all the kids in the neighborhood thinking that was an Oneida Indian burial ground. So me feeling like from a young age thinking that the Oneida Nation people were sacred. Just just thinking, oh, they've been here, they have ancient ancestors here. This land is theirs. Just knowing that as a kid. And then reading this it made me, I
yeah,
cried. I cried, and I'm like, who am I to cry over this? What right do I have? Right? Like, who am I? Just upset over this, but it's just paying my respect to the loss, all the loss that they've experienced and still have to deal with. So I just thought it was
100%, dude.
really important to spend some time on that. Um, And yeah, I wanted to punch Harriet right in the face for her romanticizing how cozy she said it was. Just go, oh, bleh. Anyway, I'm gonna maybe, I hope that doesn't offend, actually, I don't care. Anyways, I hope it doesn't offend people that don't support, I don't care if I offend people who don't support Native rights, is what I'm trying to say. Jesus. Um, you know, um, but so when they all got there, they were all kind of these families were in separate longhouses and other like structures, and then they built some. And John like looked around and was like, "No, we all need to live in one house." And I think this was so that he could see everybody and know what they were doing. He didn't like he said that
100%.
living in separate structures would go against God and it would create egotism and what was the other word he used? Exclusion. Like you would become excluded, and if you're excluded and you're only like having sexual intercourse with your one partner, then you're not at your holiest. We all have to live together and fuck each other, mainly me, so that you can be at your holiest, and also I can see what everybody's doing if we're all in the same house and following my rules. So the
Mm-hmm.
community did like in Oneida, we grew up knowing like the community all made their own choices. They all were there by choice, which is absolutely true. They did. And John, like I mentioned in the
Yeah,
first part, he wasn't necessarily like a dictator. He was somebody that people just wanted to follow. So we just would have to suggest something and say we could take a vote, and everyone's going to say yes because you said so. It's part of the brainwashing. So, um, in total, 84 people resided in Oneida after the first year, which caused the need for new construction, and they outgrew their stolen longhouses. I put the word stolen in there. Again, it wasn't in the book. She didn't say any of all the opinionated stuff is me. Okay? She just wrote a bunch of facts. All the opinion comes from me. Uh, uh, and something that when the 84 people got together and they were like, we need to build our new settlement, our new house. And it was a full moon, moonlit night, and John used the North Star to determine the new location for their house. And
Of course he did.
that was the house before the mansion house. That's not even the mansion house. I believe we're leading into like the house before. They lived in a house all together, and then as the community got even bigger, they built the mansion house. Because this is in this is after a year that they got there. So this is in 1849, and the mansion house construction began in, let me just double check, because those notes are in my notebook. It was the 18, I thought
Awesome.
it,
Stop. Awesome.
um,
Sorry, my cat was
it
scratching
was
the fucking
built.
shit I'm sitting on.
Oh, you're gonna have to Google this anyways. Oh, so this was in 1850. So they're building their first house. The mansion house wasn't built until 1861. So this is like early. This is before the mansion house. So
Okay.
that is where I'm going to leave it off this time. We're not even like,
Yeah, we
that's
might
what
have
I
to do
mean.
fucking
Like,
4 parts, man. This
we're
is
not even. Hi, Mufasa. What's up, dude? We would love to know what you guys think, though. If you think, this is interesting enough to really continue deep diving into this, or if you want me to quickly summarize and get on to some other stuff, because we do have some folk magic and stuff stories coming as well. So we do have, other things, but this is absolutely crazy, and I didn't expect it to be what it has become. So, and it gets crazier. It does get crazy. Sam will get spoilers, but you guys will have to wait. But it's awesome that you're here. If you're here, this is a pretty long episode. This would be a 5-hour episode if we did it in one part. Do you have any final thoughts for the listeners?
I mean, honestly, with the listeners, like, I hope you're as dedicated as I am, because, like, you're painting this picture of this dude, and, like, I'm so torn because, like, I see, like, the good and the bad, and, like, I can get the realization and, like, kind of understand, like, his footing, especially, like, taking it back in, like, the time frame it was at the time, and, like, the morals, the rules, like, the expectations. So, like, I can kind of, like, see where his mind frame is and why he's doing what he's doing, but, like, I'm so invested because you said it gets fucking crazier and it's already fucking pretty crazy. And
Yeah, it
like,
gets.
sorry, final thoughts. I hope the listeners are as interested as I am and like want to know, like, even though you hate leaving on cliffhangers, you're leaving me on cliffhangers. And like, I love the in-depth detail.
Yeah,
Like, it makes me start questioning so much. And I hope the listeners are doing the same. Like, I hope you're sitting there and I hope you're having these questions. And if you are, throw them our way. Like, we'll dive deeper for you. Like, let us know your thoughts. Like, if there's certain topics you
yeah,
want us to hit more, let us know.
absolutely. Yeah. So, um, thanks for listening. And never stop asking yourself,
Who are you?
who are you?